Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. Summer Shorts. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Dee, and for our summer series, we are recapping single episode stories. Here we're discussing The Dating Detectives. This is an episode that came out on November 18th, 2024. It's called The DIYPI.
If you haven't listened yet to The Dating Detectives episode DIYPI, that's a lot of letters, check out our preview episode on the show. It's the one before this one in your feed. Oh, and you'll also find a link for The Dating Detectives in our show notes. Dee, I have so many questions about this show that I want to ask you right at the start.
Okay, go for it. Just throw them at me.
So you've listened to the show, other episodes of the show?
Never.
Oh, this is new to you.
This is new to me. I had listened to, so in the preview I had said to you, I had listened to the Normal Gossip, which is a show basically about these low stakes gossip stories. They're always anonymized. People write in though to the show and say like, this is like the story I have for you. They anonymize it with cities and people's names or whatever. And this is the same thing, but with like a bit of a like crimey spin on it. It's a lot of catfishing, a lot of dog fishing.
So you haven't listened to this show before. Okay, so that was one of my questions. Another one of my questions is, what's the crime here?
How long have you got? Okay. Lying, cheating, misuse of common funds, I would say. Like if you've got like a joint account, which they did have, is he misusing his funds? You've got common funds as a married couple. If you're using them to like mislead, there's mistrust, there's lying, there's cheating.
Right. Okay. This man is a piece of shit.
Indeed.
And this woman, Alexis,
I'm glad we don't disagree,
tells a great story, is captivating to listen to.
Yeah.
And this is a wild story. I guess I'm just sort of baffled. I feel like if I had brought this to you, you would have said, where's the murder? Like, where? Like, no one goes to jail. Well, actually, someone does go to jail in this. Alexis goes to jail in this. That was a curveball.
That was a curveball. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if we're dealing with like 8 hours of my life and I'm like, Jeff, seriously, like, I get that there was a lot of whatever. That's usually my point with a long drawn out situation. You know, we've looked at freaking curling issues and we're like, well, there was a crime here. I loved that season. I really enjoyed it. But my point is, this is an episode. Yeah. It is a long episode. It's about an hour and a half, I would say, if you take out the ads. Probably shy of an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 20. But it's fantastical. It's wild. It's like, for me, it's this low stakes gossip, but it's from a primary source. Like, it's not my friend. It is, I did this. I went through this.
Yeah. No, I want to be clear. This was fascinating to listen to. I just feel like this is a little bit, first you tried to get me on this whole true crime thing. And I feel like now you're like, this is like a gateway drug to making me watch like Real Housewives or some stuff like that. Like I feel like that's what's happening here, and I want to call it out.
Next
I want to name it.
Season on So Much Crime, So Little Time.
Okay, moving on from that. This is a fucked up story about a real shit guy, and one of the most amazing things is both how long this goes on for. This goes on for years. This woman has 3 children with this man. I think 3. Is it 3? At least 3 children with this man. This goes on for years. And if anything, and they say this at the end, and I think this is one of the things that I really took away from this. This is, if you want to better understand why people stay in abusive, toxic, unhealthy relationships, this is that. Like, this is that in an hour and a half. Like this helps you understand what goes through someone's mind.
Yeah, but I also think this is that in an hour and a half in a different perspective. Because as she said, like basically they weren't having sex, but she loved her life. She loved her kids. She loved being a mom. She loved the finances that were coming into her house. She loved her house. She loved her neighbors. She loved her job. she was like, well, yeah, maybe he's doing this, but like obviously she didn't care that much because, to be fair, one thing I've written down is she's so strong. Her trust wasn't broken, and I understand she did love him at some point, but she wasn't crushed by this. I feel like there has to have been an element of her that each time something happened, it chipped away. And each time she was just getting ready and ready and ready to go. And then eventually when she was ready to go, it just didn't feel as catastrophic as it would for someone else.
Yeah.
I think she was lucky in terms of like she had her family nearby. And she does say like she had to move in to her parents' house. Like she was like sleeping in their living room. Like it was not a comfortable situation. So I'm sure in a way she downplayed the negative side of that. But it does end up with a happy ending for her. And obviously not all cases are happy, but like I think her storytelling was fantastic. And there was a lot of the reviews I read were like, she needs her own podcast. Alexis is amazing. Like her like openly talking about breaking into that house, the apartment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after being like, actually, I broke my leg breaking in. So she was probably bleeding all over the place. And the down, like the idea of the like all the down like feathers like following her around. Like I thought that was so funny. But that point really was bizarre when she went in and she was like, that was my cushion. And like he has the same sliders by the door for us, like the Mr. and Mrs. And oh, it was also gross. Like this idea that they both like both him and the girlfriend Polly have this like sex dungeon basically, but like they both have their own like partners who have their lives together. That's all like cutesy and stuff, but also not that cutesy because he didn't seem to really like his life. It's just so bonkers. I can never understand it. I can never understand it. Like where is your energy coming from? Not in terms of like the physical side of things, but like in terms of the energy that goes into lying, the energy that goes into like creating these two lives. Where is that coming from? Jesus Christ. I have only 2 kids. I don't have 3. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, where is that coming from? And then also it did seem wild to me that she didn't know. I don't mean to say his whereabouts as if I know, like, I'm not stalking my husband, but like we both know where the other person is basically all the time.
Do you though?
Yeah. Of course we do.
Do you though?
But also he's not like, I don't know. Then the idea that her friend's friend had like, oh yeah, no. Like I had an affair on my husband and like what I did was I got like this second job. And I'm like, oh my God. Like if Paul ever proposes getting a second job, I'll be like, no, thank you. I don't know.
I think one of the things I really liked about this was, aside from what I already said, but I think this helps, I think, people understand how something that seems so fantastical, like bizarre and impossible to maintain, like how it happens. Like it doesn't happen overnight. Like it's a slow progression into, you have multiple jobs, you have multiple phones, you have multiple places that you live, you have multiple wives and girlfriends. Like it doesn't happen overnight, but you sort of get bolder and bolder and bolder over time, and you get away with one thing, and then that leads to 2 other things, and that leads to 3 other things, and at some point, and one of the things the other thing I really liked about this was, while I appreciate that this was Alexis's story, she was telling it, she was at the center of it. This also seemed like a very like therapy informed way of telling this story. Like she seemed like she had come to peace with her life, what had happened to her. She had like good perspective, but we also got to hear a little bit of like why he was like how he was. We didn't need to hear his story, but I thought I think she was telling what I think a therapist said to her of like, our marriage counselor said to her of like, he's not going to change. Like I forget exactly how she said it, but essentially like,
I see narcissistic tendencies, and that is not going to change unless he decides to like do deep therapy to get through the trauma he went through, I think was the kind of guise of what she had said.
Which seemed like really good advice.
Yeah, and she was
to
like,
Alexis.
she has no idea. And I
Yeah,
get that. Like, I
yeah,
get that she didn't know. Like, it's wild. I think when you haven't been in a situation like this, it's really hard to understand. It's very easy to dismiss. And even when she found out about the apartment, she was like, "Oh my God, maybe he's so depressed."
sure,
Even though
yeah.
I think at that stage she knew about the Viagra, and I'm like, darling, he isn't going to be depressed in an apartment on his own after like taking a Viagra.
Seems like a
That's
weird
not
choice.
what that feels like. It's not like what's going to happen here.
But that was sort of in the psychology of like how you come up with
You
stories, like you fill
assume,
in
yeah.
gaps. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think the other thing that stood out to me here were her friends, and she mentions that at the end. She was like, "My friends were never judgmental. They always like throughout it. It seemed like she was like." And then I said to my friends were like, "That's not what he's doing. He's having sex with someone else." Like they never seemed to shy away from the truth, but they never also abandoned her. They never got frustrated when she wasn't making the decision that they thought was correct. I loved that.
I think one of the themes throughout this was Alexis benefited from having like really good support
Mm-hmm.
left and right, like from her friends first and foremost. I think from therapists, from the police, from the private investigator that she tried to hire, who gave her fantastic advice.
Love her.
I like she. This was a story where she sort of kept falling up. Like it. A lot of places this could have gone really wrong for her, and it didn't, and she came out in a much better place. And I think that like is a credit to sort of like the community around her. There was a point where, and I think this was the point where she went to prison or she went to jail, where I thought like, oh, she is just like this sort of like privileged white girl who like this wouldn't be the same experience for a different type of person. But it is kind of nice to hear a story about where this something that's is so awful happening to this woman, like she comes out stronger and better and happier for it and seems sort of at peace with, like remarkably at peace with it. Like, were you amazed at how sort of at peace she was with all
Well,
of
I
this?
think I mean, in a way I'm like, oh wow, she's so strong. And another way I'm like, I think her love was actually broken. Her love was for her life and her lifestyle. I don't think the love really was for her husband by the end.
Let me ask you this. What do you think of the hosts of this show?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed them. There was like at the very end there was like 10 minutes of them just kind of chatting about like the episode in general. There was this like weird moment where one of them was like, "Oh yeah, like some of my friends have been with married men and blah blah blah, and they're like having like dating with them." And they were kind of saying, I've never like judged them or whatever, and like I think we have to be careful. And then I think one of the hosts said like, "Oh, I called Polly in this story like a bitch at one point, but like I don't know her story." And then the other one was like, "She was engaged to someone else and she had a sex den across the road." Like, I mean, yeah, we have like lots of perspective to take into account, but also really like I think we can judge a little bit, no?
Sometimes,
and I also
yeah.
think that with the like friends with being with married men, look, none of my friends that I know of have ever been with a married man. Would I judge? I can't say I wouldn't. If you know, like it's so different if you don't know. If you're a single person going out there and you do not know, that's so different. If you've been misled, it is so different. It is also different if someone is married and like they're saying to you, "Oh, we are separated or whatever." Like it's a line. I think you should probably consider it, but I wouldn't judge them. But when you know they're married, when you know they have kids, can we not judge that? Is that not judgeable? Like, are we
Maybe a
really
little.
in a situation here where we can't judge? Because to me, it feels like we should judge that. The same with like a married woman. Like, you have young kids, you have a husband, you have a whole fucking life, and if you know, if a man goes out and knows, I have issues with it. I do. Does that say bad things about me? Maybe. Does it say bad things about me? Was that a bit harsh?
No, I don't think so. I have other thoughts on this. Other things that I sort of like either like had weird connections to like I've put tracking devices in cars, but more
Oh
for
my
to
God,
track where
Jeff,
my
I
teenagers are.
thought about this when I heard it. I didn't want to bring it up, but I thought about this when I heard it.
I just want to say, like, it is so much easier to know where people are these days than it used to be. Like, I think the technology is so much more accessible.
One of our cars, like I often will look to see where my husband is, not for a, like, is he shagging someone else, but for a, like, at what stage do I think the chocolate will be home and on the couch with me? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, well, like, where is
Sure.
he when he's going to be home? Or if I'm waiting to go out, it's like, when will he be home so I can like order my Uber or whatever? That's a thing that like we do. But also I know of people for years who track their boyfriends, their husbands, their friends on like whatever, on their phone or whatever, to see did they get home safely, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, that seems like intense.
It seems intense, and I recognize that that is sort of just like the way of technology and the way things are going now. I'm still sort of deeply uncomfortable with that. Like I have dabbled with that, but again, just sort of like to make sure the safety of my own teenage children. I don't love it. I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
Is it like the better the devil you know, or like the ignorance is bliss? Like, I feel like my parents lived in a bit of like an ignorance is bliss world when I was growing up.
Yeah,
I'm
like
like,
and this,
is
I guess,
that not actually a little bit nicer as a parent of teenagers?
yeah, like that last generation. Like, I mean, I was of that generation of kids. Like when I was a little kid, you just take your bike out, you'd go around the neighborhood. Your parents would have no fucking idea where you were, and they'd say, "Come home by the time the street lights come on." And maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. If you didn't, still didn't know where you were. Like you were probably around the corner, like
They
playing
were
with
just
your friends.
annoyed. They weren't scared.
Yeah. Whereas now, like everyone is basically, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are just sort of tracked wherever they go. And I don't know. That's fine. Like I get it, but I also don't really want to live that way. That's my personal choice.
It does feel to me, if you're at a stage maybe in your relationship where you are tracking your partner, not because of the chocolate or having plans and needing to leave the house, but because you are concerned that they're lying to you about where they are, that's red flag enough for me to be like, we need to, reconsider stuff.
Yes. And that was one of the most, I think, maybe startling things about Alexis's story was how just over years and years, she just sort of came up with excuses for why she would let him get away with these things. And why, like, despite her friend's better judgment, despite her better judgment, she just sort of excused it and decided like it was something she was okay with until it wasn't.
In a way, it didn't feel to me like Alexis was a victim, I suppose, because, okay, look, she was a victim. Absolutely was. Sorry, just want to preface this.
Yeah.
But I would love to, I think this is how I'd like to play this like scenario up. I'd love to talk to Alexis and ask her whether her perspective at the time of going through was, I love being a mother. I want to have more kids. I am happy to have kids in this situation. I love my job. I don't want to shag them because they're not having sex at this stage. Unless we're making a baby. She said like they weren't really having sex. He was not exploring things the way he was obviously with this other woman where they had all this shit going on in the house. So for her, maybe it was kind of convenient as well. Because she didn't seem to need that at that stage in her life. Obviously, she did after, because then she found someone and she has a great relationship and then she went off and got engaged or whatever. But so I'm not saying she wasn't a victim, but I'm saying like in a way, maybe she was just like, oh, actually, I'm happy to take what I need out of this, knowing I don't need that. That side of me is dormant right now.
Yeah.
And I don't need that side of me.
And I think that's an important sort of nuance here, that everyone's priorities aren't the same.
And
they also
priorities can
evolve
shift over time. Absolutely. I think like when you have young kids, of course there's stages where like you become friends and like you're best friends. And like there are stages when like your relationship evolves, especially after going through like a honeymoon phase and like whatever. But
Yeah.
it just feels like they stayed in that friendship phase and she was fine with that because she just wanted this lifestyle.
I think that's right. Let me ask you, do you have any reviews?
I have so many reviews. This episode alone had 60 reviews.
Okay, let's not do 60.
What? Can I not read them all? Okay, basically everyone was like, this might be my favorite episode. She's phenomenal. That's the overlying kind of situation on here. One is like, OMG, I'm a long time listener, but this is my first time ever commenting on a podcast. Alexis is amazing and such a great storyteller, and this is such an amazing story. I have so many questions. How are the kids doing? Do they know? How did their relationship with their ex-in-laws change? Did you hear at the very end where she said like the kids were like, Polly is the best babysitter we've ever had?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is so funny. She sounds like such a sweet person. I'm so sorry that happened. Other people are like, how's co-parenting go? I live in Wisconsin. This is the first time listening and I'm addicted. The story was great. People are obsessed with this particular episode. Me personally, I want to listen to more of this podcast because this seems like right up my alley. Are you like, well, that was a journey, but like, no? That's where I feel you're gonna like land here. I'm gonna recommend this to Rachel. Anyone who likes Real Housewives shows, I think I need to recommend this podcast to.
Yeah, no, I don't know that I would listen to more of this. This was entertaining. This was super engrossing. Like I was definitely like wanted to know how this story played out, and I kept being surprised at the turns it took. But also, I don't know that I would go and listen to more episodes of this show.
They're very long.
They are very long, but this was fascinating. Thank you for bringing this to our show.
You're so very welcome.
Hey, Dee, you know what would be the opposite of horrifying thing to discover on your partner's phone is if you unlock your phone and you discover that they've been on patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. Without telling you, they've become a supporter of this show on Patreon.
They are using your mutual funds to support the show. Yeah. Is that what we're endorsing?
Do you know we have plans that are, first of all, there's a free membership on Patreon, which you get some perks for. You get some good fun stuff for. There's a $1 plan. There's a $5 plan. There's an $8 plan. They all come with different levels of perks. Go check them out. Use your mutual funds or use your second or third or fourth job to pay for that. It might be $1 a month. I'm pretty sure you can
on your
swing
journey
that.
Over to your bit on the side, you'll be able to listen to all our outtakes.
Yeah. What do you get? Well, you get longer time machines, early episodes, bonus content, outtakes, and while you're supporting your first family, your second family, maybe your third family, you're also supporting this show. So patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time.
And don't forget, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, leave a comment on this episode. Give us a rating, obviously 5 stars. And tell a friend. We love, the word is spreading. We're getting more and more listeners each week. And we just love to see it. Let us know what you think of the show. And if there's any crimes you want us to cover, please message us in.
We'll be back on Thursday with a new preview and a trip in the time machine.
We'll introduce you to a crime and get ready to listen to the story before coming back with a recap like this one to discuss.
That's on the next So Much Crime.
So Little Time.
So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of Mind Glove Media. The executive producer is Paxton Caloriso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Our theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show on your podcast app. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.